Hey, oh, wait. Always like this. Oh, it's time to film again. Here I am back in my outdoor studio. Whoop. Number 46. Now this is kind of an important one for a lot of you guys who are going to be working on projects very soon, because this is a reintroduction for some, but certainly a new tool to most, and that is the tool that I have in front of me. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to film this because it's so big, but it is, I hope you can see that. That's a little part. It says using a miter saw part 1. Yeah, my camera stand needs to be improved as well, but that's okay, because you know this is our unedited world of YouTube videos that we're using for our tabletops and for other purposes, because this one definitely has to do with other things we're doing, and especially project work, because this is the preeminent tool in the shop for making what's called crosscuts, which is cutting a board to length, right? So hold on 1 minute. Okay. I had the wrong paper. Now I have to find it. Here it is. It's called Using a Miter Saw Part 1. Okay. So that's the primary task. Here's a picture of it in front of you. And one of the things that I'm going to identify through these sub-learning tasks, some of the things, and of course, as you know by now, they come up in the questions as well. So let's take a look at the saw itself. I'll talk a little bit about it and show you some of the features of it, which again come up in the questions as well. So in its position right here, it's locked. You can't really see it, so it's kind of angled in from my phone camera here, my iPhone. But as you push down on it here, there's a pin in the back. You pull it, boom, the saw goes up. Now it's in the cut position. This is actually a Milwaukee cordless, so it's a very, very nice saw. So let's look at some of the features. That's the first one to look at. The on and off switch is going to be right here in the handle. And lots of times, even like this one, it has a safety feature. You can't see it, but you feel it. You can pull it like this, but it won't come on. But when you push this little button in that's right next to your hand, the underhole, it comes on. You can hear it. I can't see it very well from there because it has a blade guard, which is super important for safety purposes. Covers the blade so your hand doesn't get near it. And that's the on and off switch. But again, it does have a little feature where if you just accidentally are lining something up and you're not paying attention, your hand right here, because this is what you're going to pull the saw down to line up cuts, you might accidentally turn it on. So that's why they don't allow you to, at least with the good saws like this one. So that's the on and off feature that's important to know. Number 3 in the subtask is identifying the fence. This metal part here, that again you probably can't see too well from the angle of the camera, is called the fence. It goes perpendicular to the blade, and it's perfect for doing what, like I was just mentioning, cross cutting a board. The board itself, if I was cutting this, goes up against the fence. That's a super important thing to know. That you can't free cut it like this. I could, but because of the way the blade rotates above, it's an overhead mounted circular saw rotating away from you. It will pull the board toward the fence and give you a really clean 90-degree cut. That is the purpose of it. Here, if you had it and you were just cutting it freehand, they call it freehand cutting, and I wasn't using a fence, guess what would happen? I'd have to have a really strong hand, because this blade is going to pull, and it's going to cause all kinds of things to happen. Plus, you wouldn't want it to pull your hand toward the blade in any way. So it's a super important safety feature as well. Accuracy, precision, safety feature, which you'll find pretty much goes hand in hand. When you learn how to use something accurate, you're usually using it the safest way as well. Okay, it says demonstrate how to hold the workpiece when beginning the cut. So here I am making a cut. Here's the line, cut across it. I hold it up against here, so as I hold it up against the fence here, I'm going to pull down the saw blade and I'm going to line it up with the blade. So I'm moving the workpiece with my left hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding this here. I'm lining up the cut. I'm still holding it against the fence. Then I pull it up. Now I'm in the turn it on position. You don't want to ever turn this on when it's on the board. So I'm going to bring it up like so and get ready for a cut. Okay. Demonstrate how to hold it. Now we're going to relieving the cut when the board does not sit flat. Okay, this is a super important thing as well, because this is a piece of 1x6, fairly thin, 3/4 inches. But lots of times when you're cutting thicker wood, for instance, these two 2x4s stuck together, which would make it a 4x4, you have a long board here because you'll have a long cutoff table. We have 2 or 3 of them in the shop that have this feature. They have a long table that goes to your left so longer boards can fit on it, but you're going to need that. But sometimes they don't fit flat. So when you're cutting, you have to relieve the cut. You can't just go, whoop. It's called a chop saw as well. That's one of the questions. It chops. It goes down in a chopping motion. But as you're cutting it, you want to cut slowly so that if there's any warp or bend to it, it doesn't pinch the blade and kick the board out back at you. I'll actually demonstrate this because there's a demonstration part of this as well in the shop, so you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'll do some relief cuts in front of you with a 2x4, but that's what it does. It relieves the warp of the board so that the board will sit flat and you'll get a nice clean 90-degree cut. Okay, cutting on the waist side of the mark. Okay, this is important. You see the mark, the part that you don't want. Say I want this part. You want the blade to reside on this so that, in essence, when I get done with the cut, I still see the pencil line. Here, I line up the cut with the edge of the blade, giving me a little bit. It's better to not cut as much, and you can always move it a little toward the cut. I'm still holding it this direction toward the fence. I've got this lined up to make my cut. I can see the line through, and boom, I'm going to make my cut. It says the finished position of the blade. Okay, let's make the cut and see the line. So here I am. You want to turn it on when it's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches away from the board. And then I'm going to go down. And I'm going to pull this up. It's still attached because I have to loosen something, by the way. You can still see the line. I didn't quite make it right to the line. If I would have left it in this position, I could actually move it before I cut. I could make another little cut again so I can make a really, really accurate cross cut. Amazing how accurate it can get. The ones that we have in the shop actually have a wood fence, so it doesn't have this big opening here, and it's on there for that purpose, so you can see exactly where the blade is, and you can line up your pencil line with the hole made in the wood fence. So I've attached a long wood auxiliary fence to the existing metal fence that's in the shop. So that's making your cross cut. Let me see. Aha, I had this lock on. This is called a sliding compound miter saw. It slides, so that feature wasn't in place when I was just cutting. So let's recut this to see it. Here's the line. I'm going to line it up again. But as I line it up, boom, here, I'm barely cutting anything off right now. I'm going to pull it out. You don't have to pull it all the way, just enough to go down where the cut starts. Forward, and this is the important part, and this is the last one on the sub-test on your front of your sheet, is leave the saw down till it stops. Now this is a direct current DC battery powered one, so it stops instantly. The ones in the shop will keep running. They're regular 110 alternating current, whatever. That's an electrical lesson for you. They keep going, so when you make that cut, you leave it in the down position. So it's got a spring on it. So you have to hold it. It can't do anything to you. It's completely safe. That's it. I'm going to demonstrate one more little cut here. It's just to show you how this works. Hand effectively away. Excuse me. I have my thumb usually right here on the edge, pushing it toward the fence. I keep my fingers in tight. I'll spread out crazy. Come over here. Pretend I have a line here, although I don't, but I'm going to pretend I do. Pull it out toward cut's going to start. I don't have to pull it all the way out. It's just down here where the wood is. Excuse me. I have my thumb on this little safety latch, so I've got that engaged. I'm about 1.5 inches away from the wood. I turn it on, go to full speed. Boom, I've made my cut. There, super clean 90-degree cut. It's beautiful. I love this one as well. So everybody needs to practice that. So let's take a look quickly at some of the questions. I want to go around here. You can see the rest of me here. Here is, or are rather, the questions on the back. It says, what is the main type of cut a miter saw is used for? We're going to get into how this turns in the next video. Again, this is miter saw number 1, and I'll explain that later. But for now, that question is best answered by saying crosscut. When you make a crosscut, and I know we talked about this with some of you guys that are doing the table task, you're cutting a board to length. You're going across the grain of the wood, cutting it to length. What is the number 2? What is another name that this saw is called? It's called a chop saw. It's got that chopping action of the blade. It's called the chop saw. How we describe the action of the blade as it cuts? It's a circular motion that's going in this direction, so it's actually pulling the wood toward the fence, which makes it safe. Actually, if it was turning the other way, it'd throw the wood at you. So what is the fence? It's this part of the tool, this 90-degree little tiny fence here. It's a little wall of metal that's on here. It's wood in the shop because I attached a piece of wood to it. And this is what the board is pushed up against. So you always make sure this is clear of sawdust. When you put your wood up, it should be clean of any kind of debris because it should fit tight. If it doesn't, you need to ask me, is there a reason why this isn't fitting tight? And then I can look at it. It isn't fitting tight against the fence. It should. There shouldn't be any daylight when the wood hits up against this. It should be flat and tight. Demonstrate the position of the blade when starting the cut. When you're starting the cut, again, I know on the other side of the blade is going to be out near where the cut starts, right at the longest point of the diameter of the blade, and right above it, about 1.5 to 2 inches from the thing. Don't start it up here. Don't start it way over here. Don't start it back here. I want to start it right down here. Again, that's spring action. They all have a spring action, so you're going to have to hold it. You'll feel it working against your your arm rather. But there's a reason for it. It's just the way it's designed. And you're going to make that cut going down, moving forward. It goes down and then it goes forward, away from you actually. How do you hold the workpiece against the fence? Again, a nice safe distance from the blade. You don't have to be way out here, but you want to be in here where the fence is with your thumb and hand in tight, pushing it this way. And check right here again to see if there's any daylight, any crack, any hole, any piece of wood that's keeping it like this. A, it's not going to make it a 90-degree, and B, it could be a safety issue as well. What is the waste side of the cut? There's a lot of questions on this one. Waste side of the cut is the side of the wood you don't want. You want to end up with that pencil mark, the side you want. And we'll get a little bit more into that with how to do that more accurately in our next video. It says, what do you do if the wood has a warp or does not sit flat? Again, I will demonstrate this to you. And I use a piece of 2x material because I'll get one that isn't flat. You have to make little cuts and go down slowly. You don't go all the way through the wood and through it. You take a cut, move forward, go back, go a little bit more, go a little bit more. And as you're doing it slowly going down through the wood, you'll see it relieves that warpage and all of a sudden the board will sit flat. Otherwise, if you just go like this, it'll pinch it and the blade will kick up like this and the wood could fly. It'll scare you. It won't cut you, but it'll scare you. What is the last thing you do once the cut is finished? Hold the blade down in this downward position. Don't move it till the cut is done. What is a miter cut? We're going to get into that in the next video. A miter cut by definition is an angled cut. This moves, so it almost looks like a protractor right in here. If you take a look at it, it's got all these degrees. You can change the degree and make a miter cut. It's other than 90 degrees, and that's the next video actually. So what do you do when the blade is still running and you are no longer making a cut? The ones in the shop, as mentioned, aren't battery powered, so they'll continue to run. You hold it down till it completely stops. It doesn't matter any machine. This is a universal safety issue. As it's running, you, the operator, wait till it stops, and then you can leave the saw. Super important to remember that one. that's for all machines. So that's good. We are 46, the miter saw number 1. We have a number 2 coming up that'll talk more about making repetitive accurate cuts and how to use the miter feature. Some of your guys' projects has angle to them. They have an angle to some of the work pieces. That's it.